Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. I'm Amanda,
I'm Laura.
And I'm Kendra.
and today we're talking about a psychological theory that explains a lot about human behavior, especially in medicine, both with patients, but especially with ourselves, since that's who we're talking to is physicians. It's called cognitive dissonance theory, and it was created by psychologist Leon Festinger in 1957. The basic idea is simple that humans experience psychological discomfort when our behaviors, beliefs, identity, or values are in conflict with one another. When you hold two things to be true and they're in direct conflict, like what does the brain do? It turns out it freaks out. And it's highly motivated to reduce the tension of holding two things true that are not in alignment. What happens is that discomfort sometimes doesn't always change our behavior because obviously that would be the easiest way to align those things. Sometimes we change the story around it. Sometimes we find little workarounds so that we don't have to upend our life and change our ways of thinking. So it's important because we're incredibly intelligent people, which means that we're also really incredibly capable of rationalizing. So today we're going to talk about what cognitive dissonance actually is, why physicians are especially vulnerable to it, and then how it can keep people stuck in burnout patterns without realizing it.
Okay, let's go. Fessinger believed humans are strongly motivated toward internal consistency. We want our actions, beliefs, identity, and values to fit together coherently. And when they don't, we experience this dissonance, which is psychological tension or discomfort. And not necessarily dramatic distress. Sometimes it's just a subtle irritation, maybe a little defensiveness, maybe a little restlessness, maybe some guilt, or maybe it just shows up in just full on shame. And sometimes it's even more vague, like that I don't feel right, or something feels off, or I'm not myself. The brain just terribly dislikes this contradiction. So, for example, if someone believes like I'm a healthy person, but you smoke a pack a day, then there's a little bit of a conflict between what you're telling yourself, I'm a healthy person, and the behaviors for which you model every day. This creates that dissonance. So the brain, in all of its wonderfulness, tries to reduce the discomfort in one of three major ways. Number one, it's going to try to change the behavior. So, for example, smoking is unhealthy, so I'm quitting. This resolves that contradiction by aligning actions with the beliefs. And this is usually the most healthiest option, but it's often the hardest.
I love people that are able to do this.
Yeah,
Not
for
me.
real. Yeah. Like the light bulb. That's like the light bulb. Oh, smoking isn't healthy, so I'm quitting. Boom. There we go. Set it down, walk away. It like seems pretty intuitive, but that's the hardest. That is definitely the hardest. Number two, the brain might try to change the belief. So something like, honestly, is smoking that bad? Or maybe they're just exaggerating the health risks with smoking a pack a day. So now that behavior doesn't feel so inconsistent, right? Because now we're making up a story that maybe just what I know is not all the way true, right? Or number three, the rationalization, probably the most common, rationalizing the inconsistency, right? Yes. Ding, ding, ding. Hi, my name is Kendra and I rationalize my inconsistencies. So we hear this a lot in the ED, like the smoking example. My grandfather smoked until he was 95, right? We watch the videos of the centenarians and they're like, what do you eat every day? A Dr. Pepper, bacon, and biscuits and gravy, right? Like grandma's sitting there, she weighs 45 kilos and she's like, oh, I have a Dr. Pepper and biscuits and gravy every day, right? So we just look for evidence, or we'll start to say, like, well, at least I didn't do this, right? Stress is way worse than smoking, or, at least I don't do meth, right? We hear that a lot. Like, I don't do drugs. Yeah, but I just do the cannabis and the gummies from the candy store at the corner or whatever. Or maybe they start to rationalize how much they smoke, right? When we well know that the literature documents it's all or none. But at least I don't smoke a pack a day, right? Maybe I just smoke 3 or 4 cigs. But basically, the behavior is just still the same. We just make up a story. The explanation changes. And Festinger's key insight was right. Humans are not purely rational creatures seeking objective truth. As much as we try to make it sound like we are, we are not. We are emotional creatures trying to maintain internal consistency. Ha ha, the dissonance continues. That explains why intelligent people sometimes defend ideas or behaviors that clearly don't make sense to us on the outside world or people on the outside looking in. We may see rationally that, like, this does not make any sense, right? The meth addict and the ED that's like, at least I don't drink alcohol, or like the diabetic that's like, at least I drink diet soda instead of fully leaded soda, right? Something like that. So, one of the classic studies involved participants doing an incredibly boring task. And afterward, the participants were paid either $1 or $20 to tell someone else the task was enjoyable. Interestingly, the people paid only $1 later convinced themselves the task actually was somewhat enjoyable. Why? Because I only lied for $1, right? It created psychological discomfort, but their brains resolved the discomfort by subtly changing the attitude, right? They were trying to make sense of it, rationalize it out. Meanwhile, the $20 group had an easy explanation. I did it for the money. I did it for the money. And the broader implication was humans often adjust beliefs after behaviors in order to feel psychologically coherent. So let's bring this home just a little bit. This happens constantly in medicine. For example, a physician may feel deeply values around family connection, but after years of exhaustion, being emotionally unavailable at home or at supper time, charting after dinner, mentally replaying the shifts or the cases they had of the day, or maybe even checking labs or something else from their phone in bed or, while reading a story to their kid, whatever. But now there's conflict between family matters most to me and most of my emotional energy still belongs to work. And that hurts. So the brain may reduce the dissonance by saying something like, well, just one night, or it's just temporary, or I just got to get through this week. I'm really doing this for my family. I provide for my family, so it's part of the job. This is what responsible physicians do, right? Or everybody in medicine lives this way. This is the trade off, right? So some of these statements actually don't sound bad and they may contain some truth, but they may also function psychologically to reduce discomfort without actually changing the underlying problem.
Oh, well,
Boom. And mic drop. L, you're
so rude.
I know. Yes. Okay. So we're going to talk about why physicians are especially vulnerable. And a lot of it will tie to how we use medicine as part of our identity. Being a doctor becomes part of who we are. It's very, very strong for doctors. And you see this a lot of times when people are starting to consider retirement or if they want to consider a different career. It's hard because you are a doctor. From a young age, many physicians were rewarded for achievement, endurance, rewarded for perfectionism, which we will say is not a virtue. Perfectionism is not a virtue, people. Delayed gratification, emotional suppression, and self sacrifice. And then we come into medical training and medical practice, and the culture reinforces ideas like we just got to push through, or the patient comes first, or you don't want to complain. Don't be a whiner. Suck it up, buttercup. Just handle it. You signed up for this. And over time, we as physicians internalize these messages into our identity. And it's not any longer, it's not like I work as a doctor and I am primarily a human being who has other interests. That's my job. It's being competent and self sacrificing is who I am. And that's where this cognitive dissonance becomes especially painful because now any contradictions to that don't just threaten behavior, they threaten our very identity and self image. So here's an example. The burned out physician. Physician may believe I'm compassionate and deeply care about patients, but when we're experiencing burnout, that is not what is showing up. We're showing up with emotional numbness or irritability or cynicism. Hey, ER docs out there, that cynicism that you think is just part of that ER doc personality, it might not be. We're showing up with resentment, detachment, and compassion fatigue. And now we have this dissonance between I'm a caring physician, I'm a caring person, and I don't feel much anymore. And that realization can create a lot of shame for us. So instead of acknowledging I'm burned out or I'm experiencing burnout, many physicians just unconsciously protect their identity by rationalizing things, by just saying things like, I'm just tired, or this is normal, this system is impossible, I just need a vacation, or I'm fine. Also, hear that one a lot. I'm fine. I'm fine. Think of that dog meme with all the flames behind the dog. That's what we do. Again, some truth may exist there, but the rationalization can also prevent us from really being honest about what's going on with us. And it's important to note that cognitive dissonance is not proof that we're weak or we're just lying to ourselves or we're dishonest. It really is a universal brain process. It's an adaptation. The brain is trying to reduce emotional pain. And that is important because we're so good at judging ourselves. And this is a coping mechanism. And maybe it's not productive to judge ourselves harshly for a coping mechanism that's actually pretty psychologically predictable.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about this cognitive dissonance process and how sometimes it keeps physicians stuck. And remember, you can change your behavior, you can change your beliefs, but what we tend to do is rationalize. And the problem with rationalization is that it happens to work, at least temporarily. It lowers the emotional tension enough for people to continue functioning. And that's why highly stressed physicians often unconsciously normalize chronic exhaustion, unhealthy schedules, emotional suppression, lack of boundaries, or constant hypervigilance. In fact, we might even glamorize it. Like it's almost like we have Stockholm syndrome where we're falling in love with our captors. So the example would be like chart checking at home. So let's say that a physician repeatedly checks their charts after shifts, like, well, maybe I better check one more thing, or let me make sure that that patient's okay. Partly because they care, that's absolutely true, but also because they're uncomfortable with uncertainty, uncomfortable with being wrong, uncomfortable with missing something. So instead of acknowledging, I'm struggling to psychologically disengage from work, our little brains will reframe it as, I'm just being thorough. This is just me being diligent. This is a sign I care. That reduces the dissonance between I'm healthy and balanced and work is absolutely consuming my thoughts 100% of the time.
Could this be something like if you're a specialist and you rationalize taking call all the time every day for your specialty, like if you're a surgical specialist and you think no one else in the region can take care of this particular specialty? I'm just like throwing that out there.
It is oddly specific.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, what?
And I wonder if like psychologically disengaging is something like that or rationalizing that, but I have this fellowship and I am this trained and I'm the only one in my area to take care of every patient 24/7, 365. I don't know. Just wondering.
Noted. So let's talk about why shame makes it worse. When somebody feels ashamed, they become a lot more defensive. They double down. Shame tends to strengthen the rationalization because the brain wants to protect our self-image. It will protect your self-image at all costs. In fact, when reading about cognitive dissonance, one of the fascinating things was doomsday cults. Whenever they, like, the date comes that the entire world was supposed to go up in flames and they've given absolutely everything in their entire life to this doomsday cult and it passes and nothing happens, you would expect they'd be like, hey, this is a bunch of bull and walk away. But no, they double down. They got the date wrong. And then it happens over and over and over. And then what they end up rationalizing is that our faith is what saved the world. Like there is such a doubling down whenever you feel like, and I'm saying that because being duped or feeling stupid is like one of my things that my brain absolutely revolts against that. So we'll come up. I'm just going to tell you, my brain is going to come up with any sort of scenario why I wasn't actually duped, like why this wasn't actually the thing. So shame strengthens the rationalization because the brain wants to protect your self-image. And that's why burnout conversations often fail if they sound judgmental, like it's a problem with you. People cannot honestly examine dissonance while simultaneously feeling attacked. it moves you back into your limbic system rather than staying in your prefrontal cortex, and you can't make a logical decision from there. So curiosity works a lot better than criticism. So one thing just to take from this particular episode is just notice the story that you're telling yourself. Ask yourself, is there a discomfort that I'm trying to avoid? And if so, am I giving myself an explanation or a rationalization that I keep repeatedly giving to myself? I would do this before with like numbing behaviors of like, this is the only thing that, I deserve this. I deserve this sounds so nice is absolutely poison for me because I will justify any behavior that I'm doing because I deserve this. I work hard. I deserve this. Deserve what? It's like what I deserve is health and good sleep and all of those sorts of things. But I will rationalize like an unbelievable amount. So what discomfort, if any, am I trying to avoid? What explanation am I repeatedly giving to myself? And is this explanation helping me grow or get the results I want? Or is this helping me stay stuck? And you might be sad about the answer sometimes, but this is not about self-judgment. This is starting to get the tools to develop awareness around our automatic narratives that our brains are predictably going to give us.
Yeah, I like that. Cognitive dissonance is not evidence that something is wrong with you. It's evidence your mind is trying to create that psychological consistency. But awareness matters, like Amanda said, because sometimes the stories protecting us from the discomfort are also the ones keeping us trapped inside it. And physicians, because we are intelligent, conscientious, and highly conditioned to endure discomfort, may be especially vulnerable to rationalizing lives that no longer feel sustainable. So hopefully it has just brought a little awareness. We might have stepped on toes on this one, but like just take it one step at a time. Maybe listen one more time and just know that we're here for you. Remember, we're in your corner. And that's it for today's episode, friends. If you found this conversation helpful, the best way to support us is to subscribe. So click that button now. And also, we love if you would leave us a rating, 5 stars, of course, and leave us a review because that helps other physicians find the podcast and moves us up on the list. And we'd love to hear from you. If you've recognized a little bit of cognitive dissonance, become aware of something that may not be serving you, shoot us an email. We'd love to hear about it. Podcast@thewholephysician.com. And don't forget to follow us on the socials. We're at The Whole Physician. We love connecting with you there. And if you'd love to get little bits of encouragement straight to your inbox, join our weekly newsletter called The Weekly Well Check. You'll get details of upcoming master classes, everything we have going on inside TWP. And it's really easy. Just click the link in the show notes to sign up and you're in. So thanks for spending time with us today. And until next time, you are whole, you are a gift to medicine, and the work you do matters.